I always thought betrayal wore a stranger's face. Cold, distant, unfamiliar. But I was wrong. 3 days before my wedding, I had everything. The dream venue, the perfect dress, and Ryan, the man I was ready to build forever with. My sister, Kara, my maid of honor and best friend since birth, promised to handle the final touches while I took a quick trip to care for our mother. When I came back, I expected champagne toasts and last-minute jitters. What I walked into instead? A nightmare I couldn't have scripted if I tried. A secret so devastating, it didn't just threaten the wedding. It shattered everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and family. They thought I would fall apart, stay quiet, disappear. But they underestimated the wrong woman. This time, I wasn't just going to take my life back. I was going to burn the whole damn lie to the ground. Amelia Blake wasn't the kind of woman who stumbled into success. She built it, piece by calculated piece, long nights at her boutique marketing agency, sacrificed weekends, and a calendar that never had room for failure. Now, at 32, she had everything she'd fought for: a thriving business, a stunning brownstone in Charleston, and a man who made her believe in forever. Ryan Whitmore was ambitious, magnetic, and came from a family with a name that carried weight in every room. Together, they were a power couple. At least, that's what everyone said. The wedding was set to be the event of the year. White hydrangeas, rooftop vows, candle-lit dinner under the stars. Amelia's younger sister, Kara, had stepped in as maid of honor with enthusiasm. Sweet, spontaneous Kara, always a bit wild but fiercely loyal. She'd volunteered to oversee the last-minute wedding details when their mother fell ill, insisting Amelia go back to Atlanta to help. "I've got everything under control," Kara had said with a grin, her hand squeezing Amelia's. "Just worry about Mom. We'll be ready when you get back." Amelia hesitated at the door of her childhood home, heart heavy with gratitude and nerves. She kissed Ryan goodbye, whispering promises of how perfect everything would be once she returned. He kissed her back, but the smile didn't quite reach his eyes. She brushed it off. Just stress. Still, in the back of her mind, a few things tugged at her. Kara had asked odd questions lately. Things like, "Do you really need live musicians for the ceremony? And how much are you spending on the wine again?" Her tone had been light, joking. But Amelia caught something else underneath. Envy? Doubt? She couldn't be sure. And Ryan? He'd been distant. Distracted. He stayed late at work, more than usual, and barely touched the wedding plans anymore. But Amelia wasn't the paranoid type. She believed in trust, in love. So she packed her bags, kissed her future goodbye for a few days, and left her world in the hands of the two people she loved most. She had no idea what she'd come back to. Amelia's heart raced as she unlocked the door to her apartment, the weight of the past few days finally lifting from her shoulders. The excitement of returning home after caring for her mother should have felt like a relief. Instead, there was an unsettling stillness in the air. Something was wrong. The soft flicker of candlelight greeted her, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The faint scent of Kara's perfume, floral and sharp, lingered in the air. Amelia frowned, her pulse quickening. Kara had always had a thing for setting the mood in a room, but it wasn't like her to leave candles burning in the middle of the day. And then she saw the champagne bottle sitting on the coffee table, its cork popped, the glass half full, a single flute sitting untouched beside it. Her chest tightened. She stepped further. Inside, her steps, slow, hesitant. She moved past the living room and toward her bedroom. It was then that her stomach dropped, her body going cold. The wedding dress, the one that had cost more than she cared to admit, the one she'd had tailored to perfection, was gone. Gone. A rush of panic surged through her veins as she scanned the room, her breath coming in sharp gasps. The dress couldn't have just disappeared. It was hanging right there in her closet just days ago, its soft lace catching the light. But now it was nowhere to be found. Her phone buzzed in her hand, making her jump. Sophie's name flashed across the screen. "Amelia, sit down," Sophie said, her voice trembling as though she'd been holding back a tidal wave of emotion. "You need to hear this." Amelia's stomach lurched. "Sophie, what's wrong? What's going on?" I don't even know how to say this. Kara and Ryan, they got married today, this morning." Amelia blinked as if she hadn't quite heard right. "What?" "They're married, Amelia. In your dress. They posted pictures. They're smiling, kissing. Sophie's voice faltered. The caption, it said, "True love does not wait." "So sorry, sis." The words spun in Amelia's mind, but they didn't connect. This couldn't be real. It was some kind of sick joke, a misunderstanding, a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Sophie continued, but Amelia was already staring at her phone, her hands shaking as she opened the photos. There they were, Ryan and Kara, smiling, hugging, kissing. Amelia felt the ground beneath her feet tilt as she read the caption. "True love does not wait. So sorry, sis." Her breath came in ragged gasps as the weight of the betrayal crushed her chest. Her stomach churned, her skin prickling with a mixture of shock, rage, and a grief so deep it felt like the world itself was shattering. Her fiancé, her sister, together. Her mind raced, but there was nothing to understand, nothing to make sense of. "No!" she screamed, her voice raw, guttural. She stumbled toward the door of her bedroom, throwing it open and collapsing onto the bed. The room spun, her vision blurred. Amelia locked the door behind her, the harsh sobs racking her body as she buried her face in her pillow, crying until her head ached and her throat burned. She screamed again, her anger and disbelief pouring out with every tear. But then it shifted. The pain slowly faded, replaced by a cool, biting clarity. Her tears began to slow, the storm inside her dimming. And as the seconds ticked by, Amelia's mind snapped into focus. She was no longer broken, no longer a victim. She was going to take everything back. And this time, she wasn't going to let them get away with it. Not Kara, not Ryan, not anyone. Amelia stood in front of the mirror, her reflection staring back at her with wild, tear-streaked eyes. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to steady. Her mind had calmed, but there was still a slow, simmering fire burning in her chest. A fire that had been ignited by the realization of just how deep this betrayal went. The phone buzzed in her hand, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was an email from Mr. Daniels, her mentor and business partner. He was brief, as usual. "The deal has closed. You now own a controlling share in the Whitmore Luxury Hotel Group. Congratulations." Amelia stared at the words, feeling a strange mixture of pride and disgust. The Whitmore name, Ryan's family. He had always dreamed of merging with a luxury hotel brand, a merger that would have propelled his business, cemented his status. And now it was hers, all of it. Ryan's ambitions, his future plans, they were now hers to control. She let out a low laugh, her mind beginning to piece the puzzle together. Kara had known about the deal. She had known exactly when it was closing, when Amelia would be out of town. Ryan had spoken often about expanding into luxury real estate. Kara had access to Amelia's calendar and had no doubt timed this perfectly. She had thought this was about love, But now, the truth became clear. This wasn't about love. This was about money. Status. Control. Ryan had wanted to elevate his standing, and Kara had seen an opportunity to secure a future for herself. They had used her, manipulated her, made her the fool. Amelia's thoughts were interrupted by a sharp knock on the door. She walked over and opened it to find Leah standing there, her face pale and drawn, eyes wide with concern. "What's wrong?" Amelia asked, her voice a little too calm, too steady. Leah stepped inside, her eyes darting nervously around the room. "Amelia, I need to tell you something. Something you don't want to hear, but you need to." Amelia raised an eyebrow, her pulse quickening. "What is it?" Leah took a deep breath, her shoulders slumping. Kara planned this, all of it. She planned the wedding switch for months. She knew exactly what she was doing. Amelia stood frozen, the floor beneath her suddenly feeling unstable. "What are you talking about?" Leah met her gaze. Kara showed Ryan fake messages of you cheating, created arguments, fabricated doubts. She's been manipulating both of you. She even stole your spare apartment key weeks ago. She knew exactly when you'd be gone, and she set it all up. The wedding, the dress, everything. The words hit Amelia like a freight train, but there was no shock in her expression, only cold, calculated clarity. This was a betrayal on a level she hadn't even imagined, but now everything made sense. Amelia stood in silence for a long moment, letting the weight of the truth settle over her. Then, without a single shred of hesitation, she straightened her back and looked Leah square in the eye. "I'm going to their celebration dinner," Amelia said calmly, "but not for closure, not to get answers. I'm going for impact." Leah blinked, clearly taken aback by the sudden shift in Amelia's demeanor. "You're not going to confront them?" Amelia smiled, a slow, chilling smile. "Not yet. I'm going to show them exactly what they've done. I'm going to let them see the consequences of underestimating me." Her heart still ached with the rawness of the betrayal, but that pain was no longer her weakness. It was her fuel. She was done being the victim. She was going to show them what it meant to play a game with her, and this time, she would be the one calling the shots. The evening arrived, and Amelia stood before her full-length mirror, her reflection sharp and powerful. She had spent the last few hours in careful thought, her mind as calm and steady as the storm inside her heart. Tonight she was no longer the broken woman she had been when she walked into her apartment. She was something else entirely. She slipped into the red gown, a statement of power and defiance, its sleek fabric hugging her form like a second skin, the deep scarlet hue contrasting with the ice in her veins. It was bold, it was striking, it was the message she was sending. This was not about closure, this was about dominance. As she stepped out of the car and onto the cobbled pathway leading to the glass garden, a high-end restaurant that was known for its exclusive clientele, the air seemed to grow heavier. The venue was chic and sophisticated, but Amelia felt nothing of its charm. Tonight, it was simply the stage for her performance. When she entered, every head in the room turned. Conversations stuttered to a halt. The tension in the air was palpable. Kara, standing by Ryan's side, froze. She had expected to see Amelia eventually, but not like this, not with the grace and composure Amelia now possessed. Ryan, standing a little too close to Kara for comfort, did not even blink as he watched Amelia approach. A dramatic silence hung in the air, stretching out for what felt like an eternity. Amelia's heels clicked on the marble floor as she walked into the center of the room, every eye trained on her. She didn't glance at either of them, not yet. Her gaze was steady, confident. With a serene smile, she made her way to the bar, choosing a seat that put her squarely in their line of sight. She didn't need to confront them immediately, let them stew in their own guilt for a moment longer. She was the master of this game now. A few of Ryan's business associates, sensing the unease in the air, approached her with casual smiles. Amelia's smile remained polite, but there was a coolness to it. They asked her the usual questions. How had her day been? How was her business? But Amelia was focused, her mind already working. "You should attend next week's corporate gala," she said smoothly, her voice just loud enough for Ryan to overhear. "A big announcement is coming." Ryan's eyes flicked in her direction, and his posture stiffened as he walked over. His jaw clenched, and his voice was low when he spoke, tinged with confusion and a hint of desperation. "What announcement?" he asked, the question more accusatory than curious. Amelia tilted her head slightly, a knowing glint in her eyes. "You'll see. But it's something you'll feel, personally." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Ryan looked as if he wanted to say more, but the weight of her statement kept him silent. His eyes narrowed, trying to decipher her meaning. Before he could speak again, Kara, her face flushed with panic, rushed to Amelia's side, pulling her away from the crowd. "Amelia, please," Kara whispered frantically, her voice shaking. "This was a mistake. I never meant for it to go this far. You have to understand." Amelia turned slowly to face her sister. Kara's eyes were wide with distress, tears glistening at the edges of her lashes. Amelia felt a flicker of something, pity maybe, but it quickly dissolved. She had no room for pity now, not for this. "I know everything," Amelia said, her voice even, devoid of emotion. "The fake texts, the lies, the wedding date change. I know you've been planning this for months." Kara's face crumpled as she began to sob, her breath hitching. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Amelia. I never wanted to. It was all just a mistake." Amelia's gaze hardened. She took a slow step back, her posture shifting from sympathetic to commanding. "You wore my dress," Amelia said quietly, her words cutting through the tension like a knife. "You kissed my fiancé. You planned my wedding. That was not a mistake. That was war." Kara's sobs grew louder, her hands shaking as she reached out to Amelia, but Amelia stepped back again, her composure unwavering. Ryan stood, frozen, watching the scene unfold before him, but he said nothing. His guilt was plain on his face, but the cowardice was even more apparent. He had wanted control, but now he was caught in a web of his own making. Amelia didn't look at him again. Her eyes remained locked on Kara as she added, with a calm finality, "You will regret this. But not yet. Not tonight." Without another word, Amelia turned and walked back to her seat at the bar, the noise in the room slowly starting to return. But it wasn't the same anymore. The game had shifted. She had taken control, and now the only thing left was to wait. And when the time came, she would take everything back. The sun had barely risen when Amelia sat down at her desk, the weight of the pen in her hand strangely light. The final paperwork was spread out in front of her, signatures ready, sealing her fate. The hotel empire, the one Ryan had once dreamed of controlling, was now hers, every piece, every share. Her fingers hovered over the ink, but there was no hesitation in her mind. This was it, the culmination of everything. With one swift motion, she signed her name, her hand steady, her mind focused. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place, and with it, Amelia Blake became the undisputed force in a multi-million-dollar luxury brand. She was now the sole authority over the Whitmore Luxury Hotel Group. There was no more pretending. No more games. She had won. As she stood, preparing for the gala that evening, the event where her victory would be made public, a new message flashed on her phone. "We need to talk about Ryan. Meet me at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Ask for Cameron." The name meant nothing to her, but the timing did. She made a note to herself. She would deal with this tomorrow. Tonight was for her. Tonight the world would see exactly who she had become. The gala was a grand affair. The glittering ballroom gleamed with the elegance of wealth and prestige. It was the perfect backdrop for Amelia's triumph. As the crowd murmured in anticipation, she took to the stage, her presence commanding attention without a word. She stepped to the microphone, her voice clear, confident. "Good evening," she began, her smile steady. "It is my honor to announce that, as of today, I am the new CEO of Whitmore Luxury Hotels." A ripple of surprise passed through the room, but Amelia wasn't done. "I would like to thank my mentors, my incredible team, and, most importantly, the obstacles that became my motivation. Every setback, every betrayal, led me to this moment." As the crowd clapped, Amelia's eyes swept across the room and found Ryan and Kara entering late. They had been avoiding her all evening, but now, as the announcement sank in, their faces went pale. Ryan tried to make his way toward her, but security blocked his path at the VIP entrance, ushering him back with cold professionalism. Amelia couldn't help the small smile that tugged at her lips as she looked down from the stage. There they were, the ones who thought they could tear her apart, who had underestimated her. Kara's face was flushed, tears brimming in her eyes, while Ryan stood frozen, speechless as the full weight of her words settled in. Amelia stood tall, the epitome of control. She didn't need to confront them. They had already lost everything. The public humiliation, the shattered expectations. That was her revenge. Her victory didn't lie in spite or anger. It lay in undeniable success. She had played the game on her terms, and she had won. The morning light filtered softly through the blinds as Amelia walked into her office, her heels clicking with purpose. She had barely settled into the routine of being CEO, but something still lingered in the back of her mind. The message from last night had nagged at her all through the gala, and now it was time to face the reality of what it meant. At 10 a.m. sharp, Cameron was waiting for her. He was young, nervous, but there was a determination in his eyes. As she sat across from him, he handed her a thick stack of documents. "Ryan's been involved in illegal financial dealings. I have all the evidence you need," he said quietly, leaning in. "He thought marrying you would keep everything hidden, but your sister ruined his plan." Amelia took the papers, her fingers grazing the top sheet as her mind raced. She could feel the weight of what was being offered, the chance to take down Ryan once and for all. It would be a public spectacle, a mess she didn't want to dive into. But then she thought about the people who might get hurt, the ones Ryan had used and manipulated. She stood, the decision clear in her mind. Walking to her desk, she picked up the phone. "It's time the world sees who they really are, and who I have become."